Millennials, investments, design, it's a buzzword. I go to so many and attend so many speaking panels and listen, and it's just what everyone's talking about, but nobody quite knows exactly how to navigate. Now I know you do, and they're gonna share their information and insights with us. So we're gonna start with Hilary, if you don't mind. Hilary's done extensive research on this. In fact, she has a PowerPoint on it. Because you're you and you're fabulous.
That's it.
All right, so I'm going to start with you. Tell us, what do you see and what's your advice for millennials and investments?
Well, I think the place to start is really to define who the millennial is. And actually, there's a lot of debate. The age range is from 17 to 35, and that's obviously a very big, different economic thing. So NAR did a study a couple years ago, and they said, who is the millennial buyer? And 49% of them have at least one child. 55% view home ownership as a good investment. But what's interesting is half of them don't actually think it has to be a residential property that they live in. It's going to be a residential property that they invest in. So it would be a condo that they lease out or a duplex. The top 10 cities, Los Angeles is one of them. But like San Francisco and San Jose, it's one of the least affordable. Some of the other cities you'll see on the list rank higher in affordability, but the other thing millennials are really looking for is they want to be around tech sector jobs. It tends to be what they've educated for and where they see the future. They also want walkability, so that's really important, is they want to be able to come home, go out their door, walk to restaurants, walk to parks, walk to services. And their dream home is a little over 2,300 square feet, 4 or more bedrooms, shower and tub separate, hardwood floors, and outdoor space. So the next slide shows you millennial markets, we call them. And these are the ones that have been in the press. Millennials want to live in Venice Beach. Well, as you can see, I went back, the first bar, the green bar, is 10 years ago up to the orange bar. And you can see that the millennial numbers have really tracked high. Venice Beach now, the median sales price for a single family house and condo is over $1 million. So it's made surrounding neighborhoods like Culver City and Westchester pop. Same with Eagle Rock. That's become a real substitute for Silver Lake. Downtown LA, Koreatown. So they're starting to move and look at other places. And that's because millennials are like any other demographic. It's not about who they are as much as it's also about what they can afford. So when you look, this is a chart I got from a mortgage friend of mine, Karen Nadapoff. This was a scary chart. The number of years it takes to save 10% down for a medium income in a median house by state. And in California, it's over 29 years, or 21 years, I'm sorry, 21.9 years. It's a long time to save up. So the question really becomes, the old adage in real estate is always location, location, location. It's really about finances, finances, finances. So what do sellers want, and what can a millennial buyer do? Sellers want to see all cash, 20 to 30% down, and no loan or no appraisal contingency. And that's very hard for a first-time buyer to sort of compete with. Frankly, it's hard for a lot of people to compete with. So the option, if you're not an all-cash buyer, is to have a cash backup. I recently did a transaction in Bel Air for some millennials who bought a $3 million house. He happens to work for a hedge fund. She's a TV producer. But they didn't have that kind of cash. But their parents offered to be the backup. They proved they had the cash to buy it while they got the loan. So in other words, if the loan didn't come through, the parents would pay the cash, they would get the loan after the close, and then they would reimburse the parents. So that's a way to compete against people that are paying all cash. Down payment. Family members can give each child up to $14,400 without triggering gift tax. So a parent, a father can give $14,400, a mother $14,400, a grandmother, a sibling. It's a way to start to accumulate that down payment if you don't have it. The other thing we're starting to see, the market pendulum is starting to swing back after the recession to 5% down loans. There's not a lot of them. They're not the liar loans of the past where you just promise that that's what you make. You really have to provide full documentation, but those loans are coming back, which make it a little bit easier for a first-time buyer. And if you're a doctor, programs exist at hospitals like UCLA and Cedars. So if you work for one of those institutions, they have programs that help new doctors get into homes. Loan qualification is all about your credit score and your income. And one of the problems is a lot of these tech jobs come with big bonuses, but the bonuses won't count until you've been in that job 2 years. Millennials also like to change jobs a lot. So if they change a job, again, that bonus won't count till they've been with the new position for 2 years. So that makes it a little difficult. Another strategy is, again, to go back to your parents and ask them, or if there's another relative who will be your co-borrower or your co-signer on the loan. That allows them to look at that credit history and that score and helps new buyers get into a market earlier. And one of my pieces of advice, if you're the parent of a millennial or someone younger, is start teaching your kids about credit history really early and about setting them in that goal towards home ownership. The other thing before I show you why that's so important is to talk about rush appraisals. The appraisal process takes a while, but you can pay, it's a nominal fee, $200 to $300, and have the appraiser come out in 2 or 3 days. You can have the appraiser done while you're doing your home inspections. And if you know it's going to appraise and you can't afford to buy the house, you can get out during your inspection period. So it's a way to help keep the loan process going without getting you into trouble where you could lose your deposit. And the reason investing in real estate is so important is that on national average, a homeowner's net worth is 40 times greater than a renter's. So get in, get early. The market's still really hot and it's difficult, but it can be done.
Wonderful, Hilary. I have a question for you, and you touched upon it a little bit. So for the millennial that doesn't have family members to give the $14,000 to start up, what advice do you have for the millennial who's not quite yet ready to buy but has high hopes of ownership in the future? So for someone, let's say they're 26 years old, and where should they start saving? What kind of process can they start?
I think you have to look if they have a program that they can get into through work. Certainly start talking to a mortgage person to see about a 5% loan if they can get one of those. But if not, a lot of people really, I've worked with children of past clients, and it just really came down to they couldn't afford to buy at the time. So a lot of them moved back in. And when the millennial generation was first getting talked about, they got talked about as how lazy they were. The truth is, I don't think they were lazy at all. I think they grew up during the recession we've just had, and it reminds me actually of my parents who grew up during the Depression. I think they grew up with a little bit of economic insecurity kind of implanted in their brain, and it impacts how they looked at the world. So I don't think they were trying to be lazy. They're actually a group that has a lot of entrepreneurship, and they work very hard. But they moved home until they felt that they could get secure financially, and then they went out. And I think if that's not an alternative, it becomes renting, and renting with roommates, and trying to put as much money away as you can.
So not lazy, but practical. They're a practical generation.